Welcome guys to the Facebook show. Over the last few months we've had a lot of questions come in and being asked if we can basically answer a few questions, give a bit of information on what's going on within the project and general updates. So what we've started to do is put some questions online to get the ball rolling. Episode 1, Mr. Webb, and hopefully Mr. Panther will do episode 2 and we'll go on and on and on from there. At the end of the day, some guys find it quite nerve-wracking, but it is what it is, so we'll try and get as many of the lads to do as we can. But I've had a few questions come in. It's quite warm today, but we're going to go through some of the questions that we've been asked and hopefully try and help a few of you out at the same time. So one of the first ones we've had is targeting fin lip mullet. Obviously it's quite addictive, it's very fun, and finding the better fish is sometimes quite hard to do. But with a bit of homework and a bit of education, hopefully we can get a few of you catching a few fish. So starting with equipment. Now, over the years I've used, to be honest, fin lip hitting is not my specialty. It's not something I do a great deal of. I do try and put a couple of trips throughout the year into it, and this year I've done a little bit more than I normally would. But it's very easy to do. It can be very frustrating and at the same time very rewarding. Great way of getting the kids into the sport, and to be honest, I know a lot of anglers who've been fishing a very long time still wouldn't know where to go. A lot of local anglers have fin lips on their doorstep, and they just don't realise they're there. And the only way you're going to get them is by getting out, having a walk around and stuff, and spinning. And if you start getting some follows, you know what to do. But gear wise, now over the years I've used different methods for targeting them, and to be fair, the equipment I'm using today is the stuff I would use all the time now. I've used Porky Pigs, I've used IMAX mullet rods, I've used the Fox mullet rods, I've used a lot of different methods for targeting fin lips. You want sport, and you want to be able to have a rod what's not massive. Some of the venues I'll go to, you're in waders and you're like up against bramble bushes and stuff like that, wading in the water, trying to obviously get into where the fish are. And this is perfect. Okay, so what I have here is a H2O, and it's actually a rockfish tea, and it's weighted to 3 to 15 grams and with an overall length of 8'6". It's a cracking little LRF rod. That's what it's meant for, but it's got an extremely lovely tip. I mean, it's quite powerful for what it is, and it does the job. I've used a lot of the other rods which are very tippy. You want the tippy, but you also want the power with it, and this is exceptional for what it is. It don't cost you the arm of the leg. They're very reasonably priced, I think, obviously from the Tronics H2O range, and yeah, it's a cracking little rod. To be fair, while fishing with Dan Bassett, I noticed he was using this sort of gear, and especially with that, some of the venues Dan fishes, it's open water and stuff, and you can really play the fish, and it fits in the boot. It's ideal to have on at the time. You know what I mean? You've got your lure spinner boxes, and you got some asomies and that. You can obviously do artificial, but nothing beats a real thing. I mean, ragworm all day long. So that's the general rod I've used now, and yeah, it's cracking. Really is cracking. So we'll put that to the side. So going to the next one. It's the reel. Now, you can use a lot of different reels. I'm a big fan of quality, especially when it comes to reels. I mean, you don't want a reel that's not going to let you down. This one here is the Senchi reel 3000 by Nomura, and it comes with 2 spools. One what I've got actually on here now, I believe, is the £8. So that there is my thick clipping line. I've got another spool what is loaded with £6 X line. We'll go through that in a minute. Okay, available from Euro Angling and Torquay. But I was always a fan of the Yazuri. Now, for anybody who knows recently, they've stopped producing the line in the UK. You can still get it over in America, but you've got to buy it by bulk, and it works out very dear. And I used the Yazuri for all my mulleting, £6 and £8, depending where I'm going. And I also use it for £20 for the sole and for the place. The reason I use £20 is it's fluorocarbon. I'm targeting that bigger fish, so most of the time I'm going for a nice crab bait and stuff, and it's very strong. So if I was happen to hook into a spotted or an undie or a thornback or anything like that, I've got a decent chance of landing it. And I've landed eels over £16 on Chesil Beach on that £20 line. Obviously not bullying it to its extent, but playing the fish in and obviously landing the fish. So I know it's full of quality, but at the end of the day, it's hard to get hold of now. So I haven't been loading because of it's limited. I've been obviously just keeping it for trace line, but I'm very happy with this stuff. It's the X line. I've started to use the X line for my traces, and I've started to use it as my main line. Fluorocarbon carp main line it is, but it's very, very strong. So that's what I've been using. It's available at Euro Angling, as I said. Check out the website or check out in store for prices and stuff. But it is really a cracking line, guys. And to be fair, for the casting of it, I was always using the Zuri. And me and a friend of mine was fishing last year, and he had £6 X line on his fixed spool. And where I was getting probably just over halfway over this place we were fishing towards the other side of the bank, he was able to cast straight over to the other side, and it was giving him the distance, and it cast lovely, to be fair. And that's what I've been using on my spinning reels when I've been fin lipping. But depending where I'm going, that's the main thing. We'll go into that now. But if you're fishing open, clean grounds where the fish can, you hook it into the fish in open water, and it can wear itself out, and you've got able to play it and stuff like that, I'd go for a £6 main line. You know what I mean? If I'm going anywhere where I've got a bully of fish, I would go £8 all the time. I know with fit clip, you've got a chance of catching a fit clip, £8. Fin lipping, some of the places you've actually got a chance of catching an £8 fin lip. I think I've seen some massive fin lip and lost some good ones and caught some good ones, but it's down to the way where you're going. Now, some of the places I fish, you're fishing and you're trying to get as close to the banks as possible, and you've got like overgrown bramble bushes, leaves, but you know what I mean, general wear and tear, where if the fish is going to go into it, you're going to lose the fish. So you've got to basically take control of the fish. So the way I do that is simple. So if I'm fishing and I've got my rod like so, when I hook into the fish, I'll never keep it just in one position like that and then reel. I'll always turn. So the way I learned a lot to do with mulleting and this is through carp fishing, and also spending some time mulleting with a mate of mine, Lee Treby, because we used to fish some marks what were very tight, and you're fishing for thick lips, and I'll show you the little rigs we're using now. So it's basic paternoster, guys, okay? So they're easier to make. Anybody who's not done mulleting before, have a go, because you'll love it. Just bread, ground bait a little bit, and then just drop a line. So you could use a rod, like I just showed you, or a bigger carp rod or anything like that. And you would use this, and it's the easiest thing ever to make, okay? So you've got a little 1 ounce lead on the bottom, going up to a 3-way swivel, and then a little bit of trace line, the width of your palm, with a little size 4 hook. That's an actual chinny hook from the Cox and Ball range. And you just tie that on the end, put your rod over it, and just tighten him up so it's just left like that, and then just wait for that finicky bite. I would say it's better to hold the rod, because if you get that bite, you won't miss it. can be quite finicky. So you know what I mean? It's trial and error when you're first starting out, but that's the rig that that I would use. But we're using this type of rig, ground baiting up, and getting the mullets to come in and feed. And when you hook into them, you really had to get them up to the surface as quick as you can to stop them from running. And the way you would do that is basically to lock on your reel tight on your drag, get them up onto the surface, and then basically go left and right. Okay, so if the fish was going right, you'd go left and keep the tension, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, and that's how you would get them up. And then you could release your reel a little bit when they're on the surface and play them out slightly and keep their head high, just keep the tension there, and you wear the fish out a lot easier. One of the other things I've found is when you're netting them is not to put the net in the water and approach the fish with the net. Because what you'll see is a mullet will come through, it will see the net and it will go off again, it will go mental again. Even if it's tied out, as soon as he sees that net, it's going to go for it. I mean, they are very hard fighters. So what I would be tempted to do as the fish is approaching, keep the net out. As the fish comes in, so like that, you literally put the net down and scoop in the fish. The fish is in. Hopefully stopping the spook of fish and stopping the chance of losing a fish. But that's the basic way we do it. I was introduced to the sport many years ago by a friend of mine, Jordan Cove, and to be honest, I learned a lot from Jordan the way he used to fish, because he used to ground bait areas and fish free line. So he would fish ground bait areas like around the Barbican in Plymouth, and places where the fish would go underneath and stay under, like stanchions and piers and bits and pieces like that, where he'd go in through, and then he would stand on the outside of the banks on the walls and then free line the bread in. If you needed to cast a bit of distance, you used to put a Christmas tree up, so you put bread further up away from your hook point and cast in to get you a bit more distance. And I've seen him hook £5 mullet, over £5 mullet, and literally do that with the rod out like that, and just play the fish straight out from where it was into the open water before he loosened the drag to let it tire itself out. Amazing to see, it really is. But that's basically the main part of fin lip mulleting, with a bit of information about thick lips as well. But what we do now is go on to the Mep spinner. So guys, here we have the Mep spinners. I'll start off with the Zebco. Now, I've been using these this year and I've had some really good results with them. I really have. They're cracking. I've actually used these as they are and caught fish, and I've also customised them and added my own bits and pieces, and added upper graded swivel hooks, slightly bigger hooks. Now they're made to catch you mullet, these ones here, standard out the packet. Sell them in Euro Angling in Torquay. Check out the website, as I said before. They're perfect. You've got your top hook, you've got your bottom hook, and you've got the attraction like that. They're made out of wire, which is very strong, and they'll land most things you want to go for. I like to use a slightly longer, a bigger hook when I'm targeting fin lips. I'll show you here now. This is one of the ones I've made up before. So this is a bit bigger now, and that one there has got a size 4 Chinu hook on. Okay, some people think quite big, but I've had them smash these, and they do take them straight down. So that's a different type again. These are the ones I've got from actually Plymouth, and cut the free treble swivel off and then customised and made that myself. These ones here, the Fox ones, which I find are very good. They cast very well. Okay, so you've got that one there. Cast very well, and they've got a big spinner. They're very, very attractive in the water, and they're lovely to use. And what I normally do is put the £20 Yazuri or £20 X-line, whatever you want to use, onto the end of that, and I'll put 2 hooks. I'll put a top hook and a bottom hook. I want the top hook to put it into place, and then I'll use like a small size ragworm on the end for a little bit of attraction, so I can just keep going. Sometimes it gets to be a pain having to pull the worm clip each time on the top for the top hook when keeping the top of your rag in place. Got a little tip off Gav the other day, Gav Cuthbertson for Sea Angling Adventures, and he likes to use this wire. So basically what he does, he put the wire hook on the end and then bring it back up and leave a point out for where it's attached. So as a worm comes up, he clips the top of the worm to the point of the wire, and it will just hold it into place every time. Really, really good way of doing it. At the end of the day, especially with this type of fishing, you'll learn from everyone around you. Some people have different tips they've found work. I've seen people use beads, and orange and green and red and yellow and red and orange, depending on what you mean. I've seen a lot of different people use different things, but I just use what I know works for me at the end of the day. I've got these little ones here, which I find working very well in very shallow water. So if it's quite shallow and you don't want the big, these ones here are perfect, especially anywhere over mud. They seem to do the trick, and I've had some cracking ones on these as well. So it really is. Anyone who hasn't done it, is the case of get down to your local shop or place an order online. You're angling, as I said, sell these Ebco ones. Get a couple of them. Go and get some fresh rag from your local tackle shop, little spinning rod or whatever, and just look down your local estuaries. Now, a lot of the venues, as I said before, a lot of people don't know where. They don't even realise that they're there, and they are there. Any estuary will have finlet mullet. Any estuary, and when they're going back and off to rivers and stuff like that, will have finlet mullet. You've just got to use your head. The best way I would describe to say, there's a venue I fish locally where I'll go at low water, and if it's a spring tide, I know full well where the fish will be between. If it's a neap tide, I know exactly where the fish will be, and they seem to be on the spring at a specific point where it's a deeper part of the back end of the top end of the estuary. So they stay in the deeper water, and you'll see them. I took a lad there the other day, Joseph, and there was hundreds. When I say hundreds, I mean 200 plus mullet, all like that, waiting in the tide, waiting for the tide to change, just waiting for that tide to change. As soon as that, I've tried catching them over low. They're so finicky. You get the odd follow here and there, they just won't take. But you go 100 yards, 50 yards further back up the estuary, away from them, and wait for that tide to start turning. You'll see them start moving, and especially towards the banks where they're starting to feed. You start casting out, I guarantee you'll get the bites. If it's not mullet, it'll be bass. But if you find the fin lips, you'll get fish. You just got to use your head at the end of the day. There's a lot of places. Some of the places I go to, I've had a lot of questions lately. Some places I travel, sometimes I don't need to, and a lot of the fish I've been getting recently, I needed to. There's guys obviously coming up to our way from Plymouth and Cornwall and places like that, going targeting them, and they've got decent fish on the doorstep, which they just don't realise is there. But it's a time game at the end of the day, guys. It's the way I see it. You've got to put the work in, and it's more rewarding than that as well. If you're going out and you're finding new venues and areas and stuff like that, and one of the places I fish is quite a trek too, and you're wading in mud and stuff like that. But when it's like the fish I've had, one of the fish I've had recently. And one of the fish I had recently, a friend of mine was with me, cast out a couple of times, had a couple of fish, and as I was coming back 4 or 5 times, I thought I'd spook to him, and as I'm reeling back in, I could see beneath the brambles where I was stood back in waders that there was a fish waiting there. He'd just come out to see what it was. Obviously, he'd seen my spinner come past a couple of times, and he'd come out to see what it was. So what I decided to do is let it go deep. So I basically cast out and held my rod horizontal to the side of me like that there, letting the spinner drop down and come with it within the tide, hoping the tide to take it in. The tide started taking it in. With that, I started reeling slow, and as it came out to this opening, I just started reeling really fast, because what you find then is, if you've got to think of your spinner as an insect, and you've got to try and play it like an insect. So if your an insect's coming along the tree line and suddenly sees a fish, it's going to go bang as quick as he can, and that's what I determined. And within seconds, my rod was folded right over. The fish actually took the bottom hook, the top hook, and about half an inch of my meps. I've never seen a fish do that before. It was phenomenal. I knew it was good fish. I knew straight away, just by the way it fought. I had to make a call at the time, tighten my drag straight up, stop it from going in, using the rod tip to bully the fish out, got the fish out into open water, kept the head up, undone the reel, reset the drag so it could play, but kept the head up all the time. And then as I started forwarding it, the guy I was with, he went down to net it, and instead of doing what I was saying with the net and scooping the net down so the fish don't see it straight away and going up and underneath, he went into the water and then towards the fish. The fish went absolutely berserk, went shooting off. I had to give it more line. Luckily it was out in the open water there then. Played the fish out a little bit, got it back up to the surface, and then managed to scoop the fish. Job done. But at the end of the day, it's trial and error. Sometimes you'll be very frustrated because you'll be on venues and you'll have fish opposite you and you won't be able to cast to, okay? And you'll be thinking, oh, I just can't get that distance, and especially with the smaller rods like that. This is where this comes into play. It's a bubble float. Not necessarily the rod I'm using now. I can get away with a certain amount of water and I get a certain amount of distance, but especially with the bigger rods like the Porky Pigs and the IMAX mullet rods and stuff, you can literally belt them to the horizon and they will fly. I've been using them on these, but not with a lot of water in, not too much weight, so I've got the weight to cast. And they work perfectly. You just obviously set your trace line to whatever you want, and you let it sink down so it goes down like that, and then start retrieving, and it will come along before. You need to adjust your trace to the depth you want to fish, but very fantastic way of getting that extra distance. So that there, I believe, is basically everything I can really say on fin-lip mulleting. It's down to you guys at the end of the day. For those who've messaged in and want to go and catch one, it's simple as that. Just go up around your local estuaries, as far up as you can go, and you've got that point where the fresh water meets seawater, and between that there, as long as it's tidal, you will find fin-lip mullet. But it's another thing I like to take is there's a little box like this, look. So I've got loads of different things in here. So another one I like to use is the float stops. So what I'll do is I'll basically get a lead and I'll put a lead on, a couple of float stops on first with like a swivel in between the float stops, and then basically a bit of trace line coming off that depending on what length I want to fish, and I'll have a 1 ounce lead on the bottom. So if I'm walking up and down the estuary or I'm walking up in different places on harbours and stuff like that, and I see I've got the fish feeding on the bottom, I can adjust my trace line right down to the bottom. If I'm going around and I'm looking, I'm thinking I'm seeing fish feeding on the surface, I can quickly straight up like that, cast out, and I'm fishing. I can fish anywhere, mid-water, bottom, anywhere, and it's a simple case of moving around, and you'll catch a fish like that. It enables you to fish fast and sufficient, and fish at different depths without swapping rigs around and carrying different rods and that. So, never good tip for mulleting. But apart from that, as I said, that's that one there. So we're going to go on to the next topic now. So we'll move on to the next question. I had a guy message me regarding soul fishing. Now, soul fishing is not something I do a great deal of, but if I was going to target soul, this is the way I would target them. Now, I'm not interested in going and catching small soul and loads of soul. If I'm going to go soul fishing, I'm after that big soul. So I like to use either an up and over or a drop down rig. I like the drop down rig because it seems to hold this lead better rather than the up and over because of the extra pressure on the weight. But what I'll do is I'll have 20-pound Yazuri, something like that, and I'll use one of these 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce rolling leads. Okay, so I'll get away with using a 5 ounce lead, even if I want to. Even if it's tired, I can use the grip lead, and that will just hold it straight down where I want it to. But then I can pull back, and it will keep this and my bait well away from the lead. You know what I mean? So I'll put a couple of like float stops there either side, and then I'll have a little size 6 uptied coxswain hook on the end with a bit of black lug, maybe a bait stop at the top just to hold it in place, wrapped around like that, and that's what I'd use for soul fishing. There's a lot of guys that use different rigs, small free up flapper, boom rigs with really short traces, pinning them to the bottom. That will do the same, except it will keep your lead well away from your bait, which is very important. If you've got your lead stuck up like that, and your bait's right next to it, and you get a big 2.5 pound sole coming over the top, and it gets spiked underneath it, it's going to tempt it to go off, and that's not what you want. You want it to feel comfortable going along and just take up the bait, hover it right back before it takes off, and feels that tension. And with the tension of the rig and the way the rig's made up, you've got a lot of leniency there before you get that full tension, so that fish is able to move off slightly before it turns a rod down, and hopefully by that time it's halfway down in its guts and hooked deep. So yeah, that's the rig I'd use for sole fishing. But one of the other questions we've had is this young man here. Been out, had a really nice bass, and unfortunately his scales were playing up. So he's asked me a question: what scales do I use? These are the ones I would recommend to get. You can buy them in Euro Angling, you can buy them other places on the internet, but these are brilliant because you can get them certified. They're the Bruckner Samson Electro scales. These are the £100 ones. You can get them between 50 to 100 quid, and obviously you can get them certified by your local councils, and it's common practice, guys. Everybody should be doing that. With your weights, you want to know the weight is what it is, the fish is, for your PBs, even like potential British records and stuff like that. One thing I will say, and this is the way you should. I'm going to show you a way of weighing a fish, because I've seen videos over the last decade, really, of guys weighing fish, and it's not correctly done so, because you can put weight on by doing so. Now, this is a T-bar, okay? So if you were going to get a fish and weigh a fish on this, you should always hold it by the T-bar, because even if you move backwards and forwards, that scale is in the correct position, okay? So I could put a bag on there, zero it, put a sling on there, zero it, then I could put the fish in, and that would tell me. So imagine I caught a fit clip of £7, right? Really nice big fit clip, and put it in and done that, it would be £7. That would be the weight of it, okay? No matter what I've done with this top bar. Now, if I unclip that and put the fish back in, holding the scales like this, if I tilted them slightly like that, that £7 would probably go up towards £8. Just by holding it a little bit like that, it would put on a lot of ounces, right? And you'd be amazed if I went like that and moved it back, that would put on more weight again. Trust me, it will. And if you had a pound size fish and done that, you could possibly get it towards that. But if you've got a 10, 15 pound fish, just by that little bit there, it will put a lot of weight on. And it's a wrong way of doing it. Anybody what's seen any of my weight videos and stuff like that, I always try and clip that onto the bottom of my scale, to the tripod. So when I'm weighing a fish, it's done on the tripod, and I know the fish can go mad. I like to use a sling a lot of the time because it's a safe way of protecting the fish. But if the fish, obviously I've got the sling and I'm fishing for mullet, whatever, I'll use a carrier bag and put them in there, bring them up like that, weigh them quickly and get them back straight away. But that is the way you should be weighing your fish, guys. If you're lucky enough to catch that British record fish, and that you want to know that the weight is what it is. You know what I mean? And exactly the same for your personal best and stuff like that. So that's the correct way of weighing a fish. And the Bruckner Samson Electro scales, they're the ones I would choose. Now, these are my personal preferences. I can't speak for everyone, but we'll go on to the next one, which is best multipliers. Now, it's another one again, isn't it? I can only give my personal opinion on what I'm talking about. Other people might agree, some people might disagree, but I've used a lot of reels over the time, okay? And I like my reels running fast, and I mean like casting, like tournament casting fast. I like to have my reels running as fast as I can get away with, and to do that, I need to use a magnetic braking system converted, you know what I mean? So I've got a little knob, monomag on the side. I get them fitted by Phil Stairs in Cornwall, does an absolutely fantastic job. And these new ones, now I've always been a fan of the Pen Fathoms, okay? Most people know that. But unfortunately, over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been getting annoyed because the reel itself is very smooth, fast running, but everything else about the reel, except from the ratchet, is rubbish. I mean, the drag on it is very temperamental. It's very poorly made. For the time you want a reel that's solid and stays thing. I know, like the sloshes and stuff like that, old reels, and to be fair, the 525s, they were always a solid reel, but the fathoms seem to be lacking something. I don't know what it is, but they're lacking it. And what I've found is I can't find a reel which I'd like to use better, because it will, one reel will have the edge over the other, because one of them will cast better and then the other one will have a better drag, or the other one will ratchet. You're meaning you've never got a reel with all in there. Now the black and gold Dowler series I always liked. I used to use it for Bristol Channel fish and stuff. Anywhere I never needed distance really, because what I found with the black and golds, even if you have them spin right up and you've got them magged, is you cast them, and as you got that point in the cast, they would hold back, and I don't like that. I like my fathom, I'll cast it and it'll go, and the lead will be taking the line off the reel. I mean, the reel will not be holding the lead back, and that's what I always look for in a reel. Distance. A lot of things I fish, places I fish, is all distance. So I'm looking at other reels. So a friend of mine, Adam Slack, top caster, good top angler, all round, come up with some new toys. He actually got a pair of these. These are the 30H Sotis from Dowler, the upgrade from the black and gold. And just looking at it first, it looks like absolutely cracking reel. Black and blue, very sexy looking. And the one thing I do say about the Dowler reels, they're all constructed very, very well. I mean, they're built to last. And the only thing I was going to let me down with it is if it was going to be like the BG and hold back with a mag. So we decided to take a little trip down, myself, Dan Bassett, Richard Albons, Rob York, Gav Cuthbertson and Mr. Adam Slack, to have a little play down at a local mark with his new toys. And as you can see by this photo, he's not very happy. One of the joys of using a monomag is you got control over the braking system. But another disadvantage is if you mess that up, that's what happens, as you just saw. Not a happy man. He's just loaded his reels up with brand new line, had a couple of casts, let me have a go, and I birdied it. But, and I didn't mean birdie, I blew it up. And the reason being is, on my fathoms, I can get away with a turn and 3/4. Okay, and I've done that with these after one simple cast of Adam's version, and it was just too much. It was too fast for my cast to take off the cast, and just went bang. It reloaded the reel up. We all had a few more casts and stuff like that. And one of the things I was impressed with was, as soon as the lead, it was like the fathom. As soon as the lead was peaking, it was still going. The lead was still going. The reel wasn't holding back the cast at all. And that was something I was looking for in another reel and unable to find. So straight off the shelf, bang, purchased them from Euro Angling, and I thought, before I get them magged, I'm going to have a little play with the brakes, just a single brake block. So I took it down the beach, had a few casts, and one of the thing I loved about them is they still done the same. They cast superb, but the brakes would kick in as they should do. So anybody who wants a nice multiplier but controllable and the reel to do the job for you, these out the box are the ones to go for. But with the conversion is something I like, because I want control of that mag. If I'm in a headwind, I want to be able to turn the wind down, that reel down. If I'm there and there's no wind, I can turn the reel up, and that's what I like to use. I always like the mono mags, and the first step was to get it down to Cornwall, Phil Stairs, and he magged them for me, and then I took them back out again, and what can I say? Absolutely phenomenal. I've been using them fishing now. I haven't lost no distance compared to my fathoms. The drag on it is fantastic. If you can hear, just quality there. The mag, they're super fast, and they're just a quality reel. The retrieval on them is 641, so it's a lot faster. And honestly, you can see that. Now I know guys, Gav and Rob, both fans of the Sotiga, and they've both said if these had come out first, they wouldn't have bothered with the Sotiga. And the reason being, the Sotiga is the Rolls Royce of multipliers. But the trouble is, they're very heavy, they're very expensive, and a lot of the fishing, especially the likes of what we do, sometimes you've got to chuck your rod down the floor to land a fish or whatever like that, and they're going to get scratched. Now, these are fairly expensive, but they get scratched, it's not the end of the world. But when you're talking 500 or 600 quid for a reel, you do not want to scratch that. It's like Rolls Royce, isn't it? But the trouble is, they're very heavy. The handles are horrible compared to these. And I know Rob, he's just basically got these soft handles which he's fitted onto his Saltigas. And he said the same to me. I've actually done an article about it, which will be out in the next couple of weeks. And he's actually said, as a part of the article, that if he could have changed, if he had them now, he would have gone for them all day long. He's got 3 of each, but he goes for the lower lighter reel. But it is what it is at the end of the day. But that's my advice for multipliers at the end of the day, guys. I've used a lot of multipliers over the years, and for the type of fishing I do, I'm looking for something what holds everything, and that is the closest I've found to it. The only downfall, which is slightly, is the ratchet. It's loud enough, but compared to like the slosh ones, which are very, very loud, that's the only downfall. But it's not really a downfall because it's loud enough to use, and yeah, it's just a cracking reel. So that's me on reels. We will go on to the rods now. Okay, folks. So got a few questions left. So what we do is we'll answer the rods, and then we'll move on to some other bits and pieces, and then we'll go back on to one of the final ones. What I've done before, which is a headlight. It come up again, so I'm going to answer the question for him. But rods. Now, I've had a lot of questions over the years about rods, and what we've done at Sea Angle Adventures in the last 12 months is we've tried to answer. The trouble is, you can never satisfy people sometimes, because we get loads of questions and people are saying, oh, can we get you to do something on rods, or we want to see that rod and we see that. And one of the questions we had was about the Any Fish Anywhere rods. So we went and spoke to Julian. Julian was happy to do some bits and pieces, so we could use some rods and promote some rods within the thing. And it's not necessarily promote, but it's do general reviews. And the Match Pro, the Tournament Match Pro, and the Grand Prix are fantastic rods. They really are. But the trouble you get is you start doing a video, and you do another video, and you're using them, and then we get a lot of people saying, oh, it's any fish all the time. The reason we were doing it is because we were asked to do it. It's a hard one, and people want to see reviews on rods, and all for those 3 in the range are fantastic fishing rods to use. They really are. The Match Pro is for your clean to mix, your mix to a bit grungier for your tournament, and then for your out and out like rough coddy conditions like kelp beds and stuff like that, you've got the Grand Prix. Fantastic fishing rods for anybody, for you. But for me, I'm a big fan of the Ziplex M427 SUs. I always have been, and I like all 3 of the rods. I just went through them from the Any Fish Anywhere range. I like a lot of the Century rods. I like a lot of different rods. But the question I was asked for an all-rounder, okay? A lot of guys who know me, when I pick this flank up now, are going to go, no way, Webby. Because I've had a cast on it many years ago when it first came out, and I used to hate it. Never liked it. I thought it was very tippy, and it was just horrible. But I've recently found a new love for it, and the reason being is I'm casting the rod in a different style, which is not necessarily casting off the tip, and you're into the butt section and mid section of the rod through the casting I'm doing now. And the rod itself is the Century Eliminator T900. Okay, very popular with the Norway boys. It enables you to fish a big lead in very fast tides without tripping the lead with the glass tip. The tips section is one of the reasons I would like to nominate this rod, because of you can fish for place with it. You can fish for flounder with it. You can fish for gilt edge with it. You can fish with bass with it. You can fish with blondes with it. You can fish with conger with it. You can fish with taupe with it. You can fish that rod will do 90% of your fishing. You can do. It's not made for rough ground, guys. It's not made for going out and going congering and thing and getting snagged up and locked in with leads and stuff. You know what I mean? It's made for. It's made for what it's meant to pull fish in. The gearbox system is phenomenal. I've had smooth hounds over rough grounds, reef marks just under £14 this year on them, handle them no problem at all. Anywhere you're going to be able to lose your lead and you attach the fish, it will do everything you need to. So it will handle congering no problem at all if that's what you wanted to do with it. But I wouldn't necessarily, if you're fishing somewhere you're going to get snagged right every time the centre and you want to lock in, then you wouldn't want to go for the T900. You maybe want to go for something like the Grand Prix or go for the T1000 or the T1200. You know what I mean? M427SU, that type of rod. But this, to me, for an all-rounder, is perfect. It really is. It's, as I said, it will, because of the tip section. If you've got a fish it's playing lightly, you'll bring the fish in with the tip. But any fish what has got the power to get into the midsection of the blank, you're into a totally different ball game then, because the power in that midsection of the rod is phenomenal. And I can see why they like to use them for the halibut and stuff and that abroad, over in Norway and that, because they'll cope with anything. Fantastic rod. But that's me on the Eliminator T900. Yeah, it's a good all-rounder, guys. It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But you could use that rod. You could use that rod for everything. You know what I mean? If you need to, and it's not a rod where you need to learn to cast with. You could cast with that as long as you. My suggestion would be is slow your cast down. If you've got a fast cast, slow the cast down so you're letting the lead reach the outside of the tip before you pick the lead up. That way, as you slowly bend into the cast, you'll create the tension and compress the midsection of the rod, what will cast for you rather than off the tip. Okay, so that would be my #1 choice for an all-rounder for beach casters. Okay, so we've had a lot of questions. One of the other questions we had coming in was competition fishing, and basically, a guy was asking what competition would I recommend him take part in if he don't want to fish a peg match. Okay, so he wants to fish a competition where he gets a chance of winning, but he's up against the pros really, and he's got a chance to take part. European Open Beach Championships is by far the best competition that I've been to. It's family orientated. You've got a bit of everything. You get the families, you get the top end match anglers, and you get all the anglers in between all taking part. And the thing I like about it is everybody is on the same platform. These got top of the range match anglers and stuff like that, and big specimen hunters and stuff like that. They have got no upper hand than anybody else in that competition, because that winning fish along that 30-mile stretch of coastline can come from anywhere. And that's one of the joys of it. It's an absolutely fantastic 3 days away. If you're lucky enough to get there before that, you get a nice chance to have a break and do a bit of fishing beforehand. And it's just it's something I look forward to every year. For the last few years now, we've obviously been covering the event. We haven't had a chance to fish it due to doing the hosting and stuff like that, and the coverage really. But it's something I look forward to because I get to meet everybody of all the viewers of Sea Angling Adventures, and we get to meet up with them and have a drink and talk fishing and bits and pieces like that, and see them catching fish and going up and collecting their awards with big smiles and stuff. It's phenomenal, and it's something I look forward to every year. So that would be what I would say. We do the Southwest Place Championship. It's a very small numbered run local event which guys do travel to take part in. We'll go through a bit more about the updates to that in a minute, because I know there's another question we've had. But answering that question, that's basically it, guys. European Open Beach Championships 2020. See you there. But one of the other ones we've had is rubbish. Okay, so how do I approach rubbish? I don't think it's it's one which is going to be very hard to answer because I don't tolerate it. I've been to venues recently and seen barbecues and beer bottles and fishing bags and stuff like that, and feather things and ready-made rig wrappers and stuff, and you know full well this ain't anglers doing it. This is guys what just gone to the fishing shop, thought I'll go fishing for the night and do some camping, bought some ready-made rigs, got an old rod from somewhere, and they've gone out and, you know what I mean, and they've just put litter all over the place, and it gets a bad name for us anglers. It does. It goes without saying. A lot of the places where I go, if I go fishing, there's places like that. We'll burn the rubbish. We do. I know I've had people say that before. If I see bits and pieces lying all over the place and that, I'll do it before. We just burn it. We most of the time we'll go out, and on a Saturday night we'll take a barbecue and we'll have a barbecue. The other week we went out fishing and we had a barbecue. We actually had some fresh fish. We had pork ribs, belly pork ribs, and some bacon and baps and stuff like that where we cooked, because you're out sometimes all day and night, you want something hot to eat, and it's nice to sit down there and relax sometimes with a beer and have a chat with the boys and that, with your rods and that out, and it's something we do all the time. But at the end of the day, we will, once that barbecue's burnt down, by the end of the night it will be basically put into a carry bag with the rest of the rubbish and took back and disposed of correctly. We do it all the time. If we're going to Chesil Beach fishing, we've got rubbish, we take it back to the cars, we walk back through, there's a bin in one of the towns as you come back through, it's on the corner, we'll stop up at the bin, put the rubbish in the bin. There's no reason for it at the end of the day. It's not one of the reasons, some of the places I fish for ray fishing, one of the reasons I like it is the fact of no one goes there, or not many people go there, and you haven't got the rubbish and put up with the rubbish like you have at other venues, like places like Mothercombe. Mothercombe used to be a fantastic place to fish. Just for anything like small lides and stuff like that, you could go down there, you got a chance of catching some decent fish, and the surroundings was beautiful. And over the years, it's just got worse and worse. I remember going down this place, this part of Mothercombe one time, and I got down there and there was Kentucky, Chinese and stuff like that, and it was from a shore league the night before, and it'd just been left all over the place, and you're thinking, what? No reason that should be there. It was just disgusting, and you Kentucky and stuff like that. We burnt a lot of the rubbish what was there, just burnt it as much as we could, and then took. There was some tin foil and bits and pieces what we put in a bag and took with us, and stuff like that. But it just wasn't needed. And I found a lot of the venues which are very popular tend to get a lot of rubbish and stuff like that. Where most of the venues I fish, you don't see nothing. You're very lucky to see anything, because maybe fag butts and stuff like that where people have been smoking and stuff, but apart from that you won't see bait wrappers and loads of line and stuff like that, because the guys what go into these venues got respect for the coastline, and they take the rubbish away. So it's an odd one for the guy who asked the question, but the way I would say it, guys, if you see rubbish, pick it up and take it to your bin. You know, I mean, if they're too lazy to do it themselves, it's disgusting really, but it's better someone doing it than not. So that was the only way I would say it. And the other, what was it? The other question he had: how to approach estuary fishing. Yeah, that was it. So estuary fishing. Estuary fishing should be a lot easier than sea fishing, because what you'll find is the water will disappear completely from the estuary. Not like where you would fish a beach where it's got high tide and no tide and stuff like that. The water, take the Team for example. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to. I've lived in Timoth quite a while now, and it's not somewhere I fish. I fish for flounder when the seasons come, and it's got worse every year so far. But the first year I was down here, it was wicked. There were loads of upper twos and that. But the following year, it seems to get numbers kept down, and it just seems to get harder and harder. But it's not somewhere I fish throughout the year because of the type of fishing I do. But if I wanted to fish and catch fish, what I would do is I would look at the areas to which I think you would get the fish. So you'd look for channels, you'd look for gullies, you'd look for places what will hold fish over low water, and then at high water go and thing there, or bait areas up and stuff like that, and then start hammering it. That's at the end of the day, anything in that estuary at low water has got a point it will come to and stay there over low water, and giltheads especially. Okay, I know a venue to which we've fished for giltheads before, and the fish will appear at one place over low water, and that's where you'll catch them. And then for the rest of the tide, there's no point even staying there because the fish will be moving back up the river. So what you want to do is follow the fish backwards up to the top end of the river to high tide, and then catch them at the top end of that low. You know what I mean? That's the way I'd describe estuary fishing. Estuary fishing for me is running ledgers most of the time. I don't use any fancy rigs. Running ledgers, because where most of the areas I'm fishing, I'm fishing into channels and stuff, and I can get to. If I needed to use any distance, then I'd probably use like a pulley rig or something like that, where I can belt it out to the horizon, and that's what I would use, or pulley drop down, even better. But yeah, that would be my advice on estuary, guys. I don't really do a lot of it. Winter seasons for floundering and stuff. Apart from that, that is it. But we'll get on for a few more, and then we'll answer the headline question. So guys, it's we've had a lot of guys asking questions and stuff regarding what we've been up to, because there's a lack of videos and that. Now, I'm in the same position as most of you. I've got a family, got kids, work full time, and you know it is. You want to go, you want to do as much fishing as you can and stuff like that, and everything else gets in the way. And it's trying to have a balance. And in my life, fishing's there all the time, and everything else is always there. So I've been trying to balance everything out and make sure everything works, really. But to be honest, one of the main things with it is when I first started doing the videos, and like, to me, I've covered near enough everything within the video. If someone wants to catch a ray, a thornback, blonde, spotted, smoothhound, conger eel, bullace, gilthead, pollock, anything they want to catch, they have got a series of videos they can sit there and watch over and over again, and they'll get all the information they need from those videos. And the trouble is, since I've done those videos back then, when I first started doing them, I was like really the only person doing them, and then these people catch on and on and on and on, and then there's so many people making videos now, and it's hard because I want to obviously produce better and better and better stuff we're doing, and so you see some of the stuff we've done, like with the Christmas specials and the event stuff, and some of the productions we've done, like film productions like Scarborough and stuff like that, where everything we've got proper film crews. So I'm going there and I'm doing presenting work, and I've got 3 cameramen and a photographer and a sound guy and everything. And you see the quality difference within the videos, and that's the line which I'm trying to go down, really. Another thing which makes it hard is venues. Now, a lot of the fishing I do is specimen stuff. I've always been into it, even when I wasn't into it. Big fish have always been something which I've seeked. You know what I mean? Someone always looked at and fascinated me. And you spend a lot of time and effort going and looking at venues and putting the homework in and studying and bits and pieces like that, gathering the knowledge, so to speak, to catch these fish. And this is one of the downfalls of social media. I know I read an article the other month, and it was talking. Some of it was a load of rubbish, but some of it actually made sense. And it's an odd question, really. Is social media is it a good thing for the sport, or is it a bad thing? Now, I think social media, and when it first started, and especially with the way it has done, it helps guys with angling, and especially some of the stuff I've done over the years and put together. And I get guys. I've gone into my local Tesco's, and I've had 2 guys approach me with their girlfriends and the babies, saying, "Oh, I love the videos and thanks very much," and that. You know what I mean? And I've been in and having meals with the missus in McDonald's, and had guys come up to me, and building merchants and at festivals and all over the place, really. I remember working outside on the garage door in this back of this lane in Paynton, and I'm down trying to sort this garage door out for the customer, and then all I heard was, "You right, Andy? How's it going, mate?" And some guy come out the back of the shops for a fag, and he recognised me. I never know, but he was like, loved the videos and stuff, and that's one of the main, something I'm quite proud of what I've done with fishing. Because when I first started fishing, no way I would think I'd ever be doing some of the stuff that I've been doing now. Fishing's took me places which I never could have been. I've seen some fantastic stuff, and the likes of filming and seeing the sand hills sprung in down at Amwell Baits, to working with some of the East Riding of Yorkshire Council and the events team at European Open, the likes of Sea Angler magazine with Cliff Brown, and it's good. It's good. And Total Sea Fishing, never forget Paul Dennis. It's one of them really, and some of the guys I've got to meet along the way. I've met some really close and dear friends, but I've also met a lot of strange people. Not saying strange, but it's through what I do with Sea Angler Adventures, and especially the videos and that, you've always get a lot of guys trying to get involved in it. And what I think I've found, and it's hit me, over the years, a lot of the guys what I've got involved, they've always got involved, and I know for the wrong reasons. They've got involved because they want to be in the limelight, doing this and that. And that's not particularly what it started out about. It started out about fishing and helping people with skills of fishing and catch fish. And that's what I've tried to always put it on. And now you get the like guys which are trying to do similar sort of stuff, like Jansen, for example. It's one name I'm just going to pick out. I'm not going to go through loads of names, but you look and you're very quick to be very judgmental and stuff like that. But what I've done within the sport is helped thousands and thousands of anglers. And the reason I've done it is I remember how hard it was for me, okay? I remember growing up and reading magazines and stuff like that, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, I ain't got no one to help me. My dad's not into it, my granddad's not into it, my friends are into it, I want to go fishing, what do I do, how do I catch? And a lot of it was down to magazine reading and stuff like that, and then you meet people through fishing, and like, to be honest, I still learn from everybody that surrounds me, and I'm a big adapting to what works. So if I'm catching on a certain rig or a certain bait or stuff like that, but someone else using something and I think to myself, that's a really good idea, I'll adapt. So I'll use something of what I'm using of mine and adapt it to make something better. That's the way I fish. If I can produce better equipment and tackle to catch fish, then that's what I'm about. And that's exactly the same. That's the way I've always done it. It's all about learning, and I don't think anybody's any better than anybody else within fishing. I really don't. What I think it's down to is time and education, and the big one, time, dedication. It really is. If you want to catch fish and you want to catch big fish, that's what it's down to, guys. Anybody can do it. And one of the downfalls of social media, what I see, is it's true what he says in some of his article, is a lot of guys these days, they go out to catch fish, they don't go out to fish. They wait, and there's a group of guys from my neck of the woods, what I know, you know they're doing it because they're not catching nothing. They do it every year, and we've stopped posting. Some of the folk pictures that you've seen, they've been probably 2 or 3 months behind. We've stopped posting because we know full well all it takes is one picture and places are bombarded, and then you're spending your own hard work where you've been there waiting for like 3 or 4 weeks to something to kick off, and all of a sudden you've got loads and loads of guys on it. And it's not being greedy. It's, you imagine everybody, the way they look at it is, if you go out to a local pier, okay, and you catch a smoothhound one night. You went out for an odd one on a Tuesday night, catch a £15 smoothhound. You think, blimey, no way, no one knows they're here. You go back the next night, don't you? You catch another one. Game on, no one knows they're here. You're going like that, right? All of a sudden, you catch a £20 smoothhound. You've got to weigh that in. you're in a club, you've got to weigh it in or whatever, you've caught a £20 smoothhound, your thing, it's like local record or whatever, you've caught a massive smoothhound from the thing. All it takes is that one picture to go up on the line. The following night, you go down to the pier like you have done the last 3 weeks and just turn up with the car, straight up in the tea, no mucking around, get there, loads of space, set up like that. The following night you're going down there, you're going to get down there, the first thing you're going to do is struggle for parking, because there's going to be cars everywhere, right? They picked up in the back of the picture where you've been fishing, there's cars everywhere, okay? You're trying to get out now and you've got anglers all the way to the side of you, anglers at front, you get to where you want to fish and it's got 4 or 5 anglers there. There's anglers all over the place. What are you going to do? You're going to think, you're going to be gutted, aren't you? And it's, what you've done isn't wrong because you've put a photo up of a fish you caught. You want to show it off, it's ideal. But you've wasted all the time and dedication you've been putting in the last couple of weeks, and you've just spoon-fed someone else who's been sat at home with their roast dinner on their lap, eating, watching EastEnders, doing whatever they're doing, or in the pub having a drink with their mates, whatever they're doing, not even fishing. And all of a sudden they think, oh, he's caught that fish, I'm going to go there tomorrow. Boom. You know what I mean? It's not, that's a downside of social media. I do agree, because people aren't going out to fish anymore, they're going out to catch. And fishing's not always about catching. Honestly, guys, if I could add to the blank sessions I have throughout the year, I have a lot of blank sessions, and I mean a lot of blank sessions. I've blanked. I've had some half decent fish this year. I've been doing a lot of different stuff this year, which will pay off next year. And to be honest, it's down to some of the lads what's come aboard and Sea Angle Adventures, because normally I'd just be ray fishing, as everybody knows, and I've been doing some bits and pieces which next year we'll see rewards from. It's educating and learning new stuff, which fishing is about at the end of the day. Like some of the guys we got on board, if they could go and do, they know what to do, don't they? They know they're the coastline. They know they could go and smash a big hound out from the Bristol Channel. They know they can do this, they can do that. They know what they can do because they've done it for years and years and years. But at the end of the day, you don't want to do that. I'm exactly the same. I want to learn as much as I can. So one day I can think to myself, tell you what, this time of year I'm going to go bang, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And it might be 5 or 6 years time, but you know in 5 or 6 years time you'll think, I know I'm going to go there, bang, you're catching. You know, you're going there, you're catching. You know, you're going there, you're catching. But you're also catching decent fish. And that's what we've been doing, really. And I do apologise for the lack of videos. Nick's been going on at me as well and saying, oh, you should be filming it. But it's hard, because it's not that I don't want to help people with it. It's the fact of, you've got guys who don't even watch the stuff we're doing to educate them. All they're doing is not even concentrating on what we're saying. They're looking in the background here now to what we're doing. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, it's not what it's about. We're about trying to educate people to catch fish on their local venues and showing them what's what. And one big part of that is using your head and using, like, Google is, you look at Google Earth. I never had that when I was younger, to go and find marks, and now I've used it in the past and it works superbly. I mean, if you want to catch a pollock and you've got 3 marks, and so you look somewhere around the coastline to where you think would hold pollock, you can find all the information out online. So for argument's sake, let's take Cornwall. Right, Cornwall's known for getting lots of pollock. So you think to yourself, whereabouts you doing? You put a Google search in, you think, oh, they've had pollock from there. Right, fine, go on to Google Earth. So you look on Google Earth, what 3 things or 2 things you can look for with pollock? You're going to look for 3 things. So you're going to look for depth. You want a deep depth of water. 2, you're looking for tide. 3, you're looking for kelp, rough conditions. Okay? So the first thing you're going to do is go onto Google. You can have a look on Google, find the area where you're looking. Then you're going to get the navionics. All right? So you go onto the navionics, you look for the depth of water to where you think, and you think, oh, that point there looks a good depth of water. Bang. I'm going to put a mark there. I'm going to put a mark there. I'm going to put a mark there. You photocopy the spread thing, and you've got your little map of your 3 marks where you want to try and fish. This is an easy one, because pollock you can catch by spinning, you can catch by bottoming, you can catch by float fishing. So all you would have to do then is go down with some spinners, or a deep spin frozen sandy or live sandy on the bottom, and put one out for a float, and you've got 3 marks to try. You could do that in a day. So you could go down there on a neap tide, say, or a spring tide. You want low tide, go down on a spring. You get there in the low water in the morning, you're on mark A. You don't get no fish. Go mid tide, mark B, don't get no fish. Go to mark C over high water, bang. Over the top of the tide, you start catching. You go home, you want to jot all that down. That does not to say that mark A and mark B the next time wouldn't produce fish, because you could go backwards and fish that over low water, mark C, not get no fish, mark B, no fish, and then fish mark A over the top of the tide and get more pollock, but bigger pollock, because of the depth of water there. But the only difference is you fished it over the low instead of the high. You know what I'm saying? You've got to use it all, and it's exactly the same with the neeps and the springs. You've got to put in homework and educate yourself. So your fishing venue, your fishing marks, and you might not be catching. It's not everything's catching is not everything. Homework and education, learning how things work, is the main key to success with fishing. And you gather that, and in the long run, you'll get more fish. I promise you that. You'll get more fish. And it's just how it goes. And like you do it in a lot of species. You could go to gilt edge, you could go to mullet, you could go to ray. You look at all of them, and all that information is there for taking. The internet is a lot of people might not like it, but at the end of the day, you can't stop it. And it's like going back to the article. The way I see it is, over the time we've been doing Sea Angle Adventures, we've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and that's good enough for me. That's what keeps us doing what we do. It's about helping people. And one of the things I like about the group of guys that got involved at the moment is, for the first time within doing the project, we've got a group of lads who are all in it for the same reasons. You're never going to make money out of sea angling. I wouldn't work full-time out. At the end of the day, we don't do it for money. We don't get that out of it. What we do it for is to help and promote the sport of sea angling, and that's the reason we do it. You get people, like I was saying before, with like doing the rods. Rods is something we've had loads of interest in over the years, and people asking questions and that. This year we've done it, and you can never help everybody, because first thing we had to do is look in, and we had loads of people asking about the Any Fish Anywhere rods. So we went and arranged a meeting, sat down with Julian, got it all sorted and that. You start doing a few productions with it, and then you get just bombarded with people saying, "Oh, that's all we hear is Any Fish and you finish." You can't win sometimes. I mean, you're trying to help people. It's hard to build relationships with these companies and stuff. And then obviously people moan. It's hard to get everything right, because you're always going to upset someone. But what we try to do is tone down all of it completely, and make it more about sea angling, that's what it's about at the end of the day. One of the other ones is like Cox and Raw. Me and Mark have had a lot of differences over the years. If you watch this video, we'll sit there and agree. And the reason I promote Cox and Raw isn't because we get money off hooks, as a lot of people would think. The reason I promote Cox and Raw is quality, right? And quality is a big part of my fishing. There's only 2 hook manufacturers I use, Cox and Raw and Mustad, okay? Only 2 I use. And the reason is simple, because you get one company, for example, I won't go into names and stuff, but they start coming out with the new swivels and new hooks and stuff like that, and it's just imported rubbish. It really is. I mean, take the Specimen Extra, for example. I'll give you a little bit of homework, all of you. Go to your local shop and grab a Specimen Extra from the Cox and Raw range, right? Take that hook and then go and match it with another hook from a different brand, okay? You know what I'll be talking about, so you could go and get any of those 2 hooks. What I want you to do then is get a pair of pliers, right? And what we're going to do is do a destroy mission. So take your Specimen Extra, grab it with a pair of pliers on the top and grab it with a shank, right? And then bend it, try bending it, right? And see that, right? Once you've done that, put that to the side, okay? And count the time it's took you to try and destroy that hook, right? Then go and take the hook from the other brand and then do exactly the same. Your hands will go like that, okay? With a pair of pliers like that, your hands will go like that, and you'll actually bend the hook, okay? And it's a simple case of using foreign garbage It's what it is, guys. And they might put different wrappers and they might put different things on it and these new swivels and the new bits and pieces like that. But at the end of the day, they're there to make money. That's what they're there to do. It's not saying Cox and Raw's not there to make money. They're there to make money. But what you get with Cox and Raw is a quality. At the end of the day, you look at some of the other hooks they do for like the partridge range from the fly fishing and stuff like that. It's quality hooks which guys like fly fishermen spend probably a lot more money than we do on their gear and travelling around and stuff like that. And the hooks, what they're using, for the fish and the tininess of it, they've got to be strong. And it's not a case of I'm using a thing. Even if I was never to do work with Cox and Raw again, the reason what I use Cox and Raw hooks is not for the fact that we get bits and pieces off. It's the fact we use them, and I use them for the quality, and that's number one priority for me. When we were doing it at the beginning, I had to try. Obviously, we're trying to get involved with different people and create relationships and stuff like that. That's how the industry works, and it helps promote what's working and what's new on the market for you guys. Okay, so what we try to do when we've been doing the reviews and that is, you see, if I was to look up and say that rod's rubbish or that, you know what I mean, you're never going to get a relationship to do another rod with them. So if I get a product what I'm not happy with, I'll send it back. So what we try to do is maintain the reviews on quality components rather than rubbish, and promote that. That way, people know you've got to look at it in the circle. You're trying to build relationships and stuff like that, and be able to work with people and do reviews and stuff like that. And it's got to work all ways. I mean, they don't want people on there saying, "Oh, that's rubbish." You know what I mean? But at the same time, I want to give an honest review. So if there's something what's not worked, and I've done it before, what I'll do is I'll write a piece on it and I'll pass it to the manufacturer and say, the reason this hasn't been published is for the fact of such and such, such and such. Now, hopefully, they take away that information then and develop and put it into developments for their next rod in the series, or whether they do or not. I've tried to do my part, and the guys what have done the testing, whoever they are at Sea Angle Adventures, they've all do the same. So it's one of them, but yeah, it's the Sea Angle Adventures to me is on the up and up. We've got some fantastic guys involved, and we've got some good things in the pipeline to be working on. One of the next steps we're going to be looking at is a rig series. It's something we've looked a lot into. We've had a lot of people asking about it, so it's something which we'll get a load of the guys together and cover a complete series on rigs to help everybody out. Knots is another one. We've got a casting one coming up later on in December, which will be part of the European Open Christmas special. Christmas special will be on Christmas Day. The casting will be on New Year's Eve. So me and Adam, Rob and Gav and Dan, Bassett and Rich and a few of the other lads, we're going to get on board and try and get that put in the pipeline. So there's a few videos to learn, and hopefully give you a couple more bits and pieces to view. But before we go, we'll just have a little update on the Southwest Place Championships. I had a lot of questions about it, and then we'll end the episode off. So, Southwest Place Championships. The only difference this next year is we have no longer got Seaview Angling as a main sponsor, as many of you know. I won't go into the reasons why. There is a lot of reasons why, but all I will say is that the competition, and for the well-being and the future of the competition, it's been looked at, and we decided that the best thing would be is to part companies with Seaview as main sponsor. We think that, and we believe the competition deserves more than what was being put in by a sponsor. And I don't mean by put in by prizes, I mean by put in from work. Obviously, each year the Sea Angle Adventures team put in a lot of hard work into that competition, and the awards on the last year was basically, I was a bit disappointed because we waited 20 minutes for the main sponsor to turn up to help present prizes and that, who decided to just go home, and it was disrespectful to Sea Angle Adventures, myself, Nick, everybody what put hard work in that weekend alongside all the anglers, because it was very challenging conditions last year, guys, So yeah, that's basically it. So next year we also have a new sponsor, Euro Angling Torquay, and there will be a few new changes to the competition. Okay, we are looking at holding it in a different part of the southwest. Nothing's been put together yet. Obviously, it's still in talks. But myself and Nick, over the up and coming months now, we'll be having a meeting and putting things into practice, ready to be obviously updated to the page. But yeah, it was a good turnout last year. We had a junior won it, which was fantastic. And the only thing I found is if you do Ferry Bridge to Rame Head, it's on one coastline, and unfortunately we had the wind terrible on that coastline, and it didn't enable people to fish North Cornwall and places like Cornish venues and go places where you could get out the wind. East Portmouth was probably the only place you could try and get out of it, and it was still not very nice in there. So what we're trying to do is we're looking at holding it a bit later in the month, and looking at a way of trying to obviously look at the wind and stuff, because obviously if the wind comes in, it blows Chesel up and Slapton and places like that, it's going to be hard fishing. So we need to make sure at the same time we can basically look at what we can do and what we can change and how we can better the event. So updates will be happening, guys, I can assure you that. But we're going to end it off now with the headlight. So we got the Petzl Ultra Rush. Okay, it's going to be argumentative because some people are going to say I prefer my Phoenix. They do, they don't. But to me, this was worth every penny. I had it when it first came out, and I actually own two of these. I've got one on my rock climbing helmet, which I use obviously because it's Petzl and it just fits on there perfectly. And I've got this one here as well, a couple of spare batteries and stuff. It's job done, guys. It's got 4 different settings, okay, and it's just a quality light. It's never let me down. Holds great charge. Got spare batteries of it, and it is what it is, really. It's dear, may I add, but at the end of the day, you always get for what you pay for in fishing. But yeah, that's the Ultra Rush, boys and girls. There's a lot of different ones in the market. I'm sure if anybody who's looking for a new one, I'll check out on the Euro Angling website, and you'll be able to see some of the different headlights they got in at the minute. But apart from that, I think that's the first episode of the fishing show. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I tried to didn't want to make it too controversial, but we wanted to try and add some bits and pieces and get some spice going at the same time. But we've answered all the questions what's come in. I think Nick's going to do one very soon. I think Mike Coomer was interested in doing one. Hopefully we can get Mr. Rob York and have a go. He messaged and said Adam Slack hadn't wanted to have a go with it earlier on, so I'll have to have a word with Adam later on. But if not, I know Big Gav would be definitely up for it. But yeah, at the end of the day, guys, it is what it is. Fishing is fishing. And one of the things I found out, especially this year, is normally I'd just be out and out fishing for rays, and if I had a good session, I'd have a good session and caught a fish. If I didn't, I'd just go home and it'd just be like normal. But some of the fun I've had this year within my fishing has been phenomenal, and it's sort of like took me back to when I first started fishing, really, where you're going out and you're having a laugh and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. And it's not about catching; it's about going out with friends and having a good time. And if you catch, you catch. If you don't, you don't. And we've done a lot of homework at the same time, so it's been good. But we really have got a fantastic group of guys involved in this project now. We've took on a few new guys from South Wales. We've got Chris Fisher from North Yorkshire, along with his mate up there now as well, with Glenn and Josh Wilson. And we've got Mark Clegg, obviously up further up the line there, who goes for a lot of the skating and tope and that. And it's forever growing, and that's what it's about. It's about education and helping. And at the end of the day, I'd love to be able to do videos every week like I used to, but to be honest, I'm not out every week like I used to. I'm really not. It's trying to have that balance in life, isn't it? I know it's hard for everybody. I know guys will get to go out one night a week. I know guys will get to go out 3 nights a week. I know guys get to go out once a month. Once a month would kill me. I've got to go out at least once a week. I try to go out at least once a week and try and get it get as like I can, but it's a big thing, really. It's like one of the main things I would put across to people is, if you want to go and catch fish, you've got to be able to have done your homework. You're not going to catch all the time off of looking at catch reports and that. You know, you need to be getting into gear. You know what I mean? So if you want to catch a fish in that species, honestly, guys, do what I've gone through in this episode. Go out, look on the internet, see your areas, go onto Google, get the navionics, look at things over high water, look at things over low water, and then put the time and effort into catching them. And you will catch them, honestly. And there's nothing more rewarding than to be the first to be catching that specific species on your coastline. You know what I mean? And yeah, as people will find out later in the year. But apart from that, that's all from myself at Sea Angle Adventures for the fishing show. I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and I'll come on and answer a few of your questions within the mix around 10 o'clock. Tight lines, guys.